A brand new order paper response shows that the federal government built electric car charging stations for the federal government fleet in places where electric cars cannot get to, like physically cannot access. Today, I'll show you the embarrassing documents. Today's unsurprising examples of extreme government waste on virtue signaling comes to us by way of an order paper question posed by Conservative MP Philip Lawrence. Lawrence asked the federal government for details about vehicle charging stations installed on government property, including where those stations are, if they are even operational, and what these things cost the Canadian taxpayer. And it's a pretty relevant question since the federal government says that we all need to move toward net zero cars by 2035, or as you know, the world is going to end.
We're working to green the aviation sector as well by pursuing a vision for net zero emissions by 2050 and the actions needed to get there. In the marine and rail sectors, we're funding clean transportation research projects to accelerate the adoption of innovative new technologies. All of this is aimed at reducing pollution in Canada in every mode of transport.
The federal government should be the pinnacle of getting electric vehicle infrastructure right. They're the greenest of us all. For the very few electric cars that they do have, I think the federal government fleet is about 2.5% electric. So you know what? They love fossil fuels as much as I do. They just don't want to admit it. Now, I will publish these documents in full because I think you should be able to read them. But there are some crazy, wasteful things in here. For example, at an immigration holding facility in Surrey, British Columbia, the electric car charger there is a place where electric vehicles cannot access. I wish I was making this up. Look at this. Immigration Holding Center, Surrey, British Columbia charging station was installed at the time of construction of the Immigration Holding Center. However, the location is no longer operationally adequate as it is inaccessible to CBSA fleet vehicles. And then they can't tell us how much it cost to get this all wrong. Take a look at this. Cost unknown, installed as part of a larger construction project. Detailed costs were not provided. So how did they pay for it? There's also another charging station in Aldergrove, BC that they can't monitor or use because whoever they hired to do it no longer qualifies as a federal government supplier. What a mess. But that whole thing cost us nearly $17,000, $16,900. On page 61 of these documents, Innovation put in 7 stations that have never been turned on, spending $82,500 because, well, the pandemic. Look at this. In addition, ISED installed 7 charging stations located at the Communications Research Centre Canada on the Shirleys Bay campus. Due to the ongoing pandemic, ISED did not activate these stations, and the total cost of acquisition and installation was $82,500. The department is determining the best timing to activate the stations for fleet vehicle usage as part of planning for a return to the workplace. And then the National Research Council put in a charging station in Vancouver in July 2015, but it was only turned on between August 2021 and April 2022. Look at this. One station was installed in July 2015 at Westbrook Mall in Vancouver, British Columbia, with the total cost of $2,250 for its acquisition and installation, but was only operational between the period of August 21 and April 2022. So it sat idle for 6 years before it was used for a grand total of 9 months before it being decommissioned one more time. The federal government can't get net zero vehicles right for themselves, but they think they can roll this thing out to the entire country? Sure. What could possibly go wrong with their big green reset? Except, well, everything. For Rebel News, I'm Sheila Gunn Reid. The push for net zero vehicles here in Canada is completely irrational and it's expensive. Canadians can't afford this. There's not enough infrastructure and it's a cold climate. It just doesn't make any sense, but it's all part of this great green reset. To sign our petition against these net zero policies, please go to nogreenreset.com.